Hey, what's going on, internet? Josh Noel from Sunduck Film. So this is a film channel, so of course we're going to be making filmmaking videos. So we're going to be talking about doing a long take or a oner. So in the clip you see here, we are shooting this handheld. We had some stabilization gear, but in this video I definitely want to talk about how to shoot great handheld video without any stabilization gear or anything that's expensive. So anyone can follow along with this video, especially if you're new to filmmaking. This video will be great because we'll be talking about several techniques to pay attention to in this video, and some cool little effects you can do in post, and of course talk about lighting so we can pull together this beautiful, one shot. So the shot you see right now was for more of a artsy sort of project. So you want to give your one shots meaning. You just don't want to do a long take to just do it. So make sure when you do a long take, it has some sort of purpose. Just don't do it just to be cool or to impress somebody. So keep that in mind. So the first thing I want to talk about are some of the techniques that we did. So we used a wide angle lens, a 16 to 35. We shot it at 24 millimeters, and you want to shoot with a wide angle lens if you're going to do handheld, because the more you zoom in with a lens, the longer focal length that you have, the more noticeable, there'll be more noticeable camera shake in your shot. So you don't want to shoot with a long lens like a 50 millimeter or an 85. Anything, you really want to stay wide. So I want to go past 35 millimeters, depending on what sensor size you shoot on. So basically, my first tip: shoot with a wide angle lens. And then the second tip is pick a camera that has a good sensor size, a large sensor size compared to other cameras. So if you don't know anything about sensor sizes, every camera has a different sensor, and the size varies depending on what camera you're using. So for most of my stuff that I do, I usually use a blackmagic cinema camera, which has a micro four thirds sensor. So that means the sensor size is not that big. It's kind of small. And for this one shot, we used the Canon 5D, which has a full frame sensor, which is basically the biggest sensor that you can really get right now, or at least on for a reasonable price. So basically, the larger your sensor is, the less camera shake there's going to be, the larger your frame is, and the less your crop factor is going to take in place for your shot. So the Canon 5D has basically no crop factor at all. It's like a one-to-one crop factor. So if you're shooting at 24 millimeters, you're actually shooting at 24 millimeters. On the Blackmagic Cinema camera, which has a micro four thirds sensor, the focal length multiplier is like 2.25. So if you're shooting at 24 millimeters, you're really shooting at like 60 millimeters. So the camera shake on that is going to be way more noticeable than on a 5D. So if you have your option to choose between different cameras and stuff, try to pick out a camera that has a larger sensor, so you can eliminate that camera shake. So now we've got some technical things out of the way. Let's talk about actually putting your hands on the camera. So right here I have a DSLR, and basically there's a couple techniques that I follow, or there's really one big technique that I follow when doing handheld video, is that I like to put my elbows against my body like this and use my body kind of as a stabilizer, and make sure put my hands on the camera and keep my elbows against my body, because if you shoot out like this, you're losing a little bit of stabilization and you're going to be a little bit more shaky. So of course keep your elbows against your body and use your body as a stabilizer. For the shot, we did have a glide cam, and the only downside to sometimes using stabilization gear is that the gear might be too big for the area that you're working in. So in this case, we were getting kind of low to the ground with the camera, and the gear was touching the ground, making it impossible to get some of the angles that we wanted to get in the one shot. So sometimes handheld does have its benefits. So if you're going to do handheld, remember elbows against the body, and that should definitely help you a lot. Also, if you do have a tripod, like you don't have any stabilization gear, but you do have a tripod, you can put your camera on the tripod and use your tripod as a stabilizer. I mean, it's not the greatest thing ever, but at least it gets your hands off of the camera, and I'm pretty sure if you're into filmmaking, you have a tripod, so understand that you can use a tripod as a stabilizer. So there you go. So perhaps the biggest thing you want to think about before you go into your shoot is the lighting. So for this shot, we had 3 production lights, and basically we were in a room that had a ton of windows in it. So we were able to bring in some natural light and kind of mix it with some of our production lights. I'm going to talk about some of the lighting techniques that you can use for your one shot. So the thing about one shots is that lighting does become a little bit more difficult because you might be doing be showing 360 degrees of the room. In our case, we only showed like one side of the room, so we didn't really have to worry about hiding light strategically. But let's say if you do a 360 pan of the room, hopefully maybe there's some windows. So if you have a strong enough light, like maybe a 1K or a 2K, you can shine lights through the window. Depending on the time of day, as long as you have a powerful enough light, you might be able to hide lights outside of the room, shine it through the window, and maybe you can able to do some bounce lighting. So maybe you can hide some lights behind objects and bounce the light off the ceiling to help bring up that ambience. So you can shoot at a lower ISO. So like if you're like in a darker room and shooting on a DSLR, you don't want to have so much grain. So being able to bounce light can be helpful. We did bounce a light for this shoot off the roof, and that helps the ambience and just being strategic. There really is not a perfect layout for every shoot, so you guys are just gonna have to understand your options. So remember, keep in mind bounce lighting. Think about places where you can hide the lights, and then also think about how you can shine lights from the outside to the inside of the room. So there's a few techniques to keep in mind when you're lighting these sort of things. It all depends on what type of mood and look you're going after, but for what we did, I think we got exactly what we wanted to do. So that's one way to do it. So the last thing I want to talk about for a one shot is warp stabilizer. I'm going to jump over to Premiere and show you guys the settings that I used. For a one shot, you have to be careful because if you have like a minute take or something like that, warp stabilizer can easily just ruin your day because you might not think it's going to work perfectly because it's going to crop the image by so much. But I'm going to show you guys some settings right here that should help you. Okay, so here is warp stabilizer if you just apply the effect, and basically it will crop our image in by so much that it's basically unusable, and this is unacceptable for standard HD video. So here's a before and after. See how much it just crops in. So that's basically the standard effects in Premiere. So basically what I did was I set the smoothness down to like 5% or 10%. And then I went ahead and went into the advanced tab, and where it says crop less and smooth more, I set that down to about 5%. So with our new settings, the image is not as cropped, and it'll look great. And the only reason why you have to use lower percentages on long takes is just because you are doing a lot of camera movements. You're showing a lot of areas in your shot. And warp stabilizer is trying to stabilize every aspect of the shot, so that's why it's going to crop in so much if you use the standard settings. So even though we really weakened down the warp stabilizer effect, it does help out just by a little bit, and it doesn't crop our image so much that it's basically unusable. So that's basically the two settings that I used to help out our shot using warp stabilizer. So that's pretty much all my tips for doing a long take without any stabilization gear. If you have stabilization gear, be sure to try to use it at least. But if you guys have any questions about the gear that I've used, or any questions about the tips in this video, please drop a comment down below. Or if you have any tips of your own, please also drop those in the comments section below as well. And as always, if you guys are new to the channel, please hit that subscribe button for more videos like this. And if you found this video helpful, please drop a like. It helps me out tremendously. And guys, as always, thank you so much for watching this video, and hopefully I'll see you soon.